before thunder carved its name across the heavens, before lightning became his voice. Ṣàngó ruled Oyo, not as a myth, as a man, Alaafin of a rising empire, warrior of unmatched presence, a king whose footsteps carried command. His court glittered with brass and coral beads. Drums announced his arrival before he spoke. Armies moved when he lifted a hand. Fire lived in him, not only the fire of power, but the fire of ambition, of pride, of a man who believed the sky itself should answer him, and often it did. But far from the carved pillars of Oyo's palace, beyond the reach of royal messengers and war horns, stood another force. Oya, daughter of the river Niger, Dr. Oya, where the river bends and currents divide. Her presence was known. She walked through marketplaces where voices rose like waves. She settled disputes not with softness but with certainty. When traders argued, winds stirred. When injustice lingered, storms gathered. She was not born into someone's shadow. She did not wait to be chosen. She did not shrink for power. She was already storm. In Yoruba cosmology, wind is not chaos. It is movement, transformation, the clearing of what no longer belongs. She governed change. She understood that endings are not destruction. They are preparation. One ruled with fire. The other moved like wind. One commanded armies. The other commanded atmosphere. Neither sought the other. Neither needed completion. And yet, destiny, quiet and patient, was already shifting the clouds. Because when fire burns without guidance, it consumes. And when wind moves without direction, it scatters. But when fire and wind recognize each other, history changes. And somewhere between palace drums and river currents, the sky was preparing for thunder to meet the storm. Ṣàngó did not arrive quietly. He came as Alaafin of Oyo, war drums behind him, warriors at his back, authority in every step. Kings were accustomed to obedience. Territories bowed. Chiefs lowered their eyes. Silence followed command. But Oya was not territory. She was presence. When Ṣàngó demanded passage through her sphere of influence near the river, she did not move aside. She stood firm, feet planted in earth that knew her name. In Yoruba tradition, wind is not weakness. It is motion. It is disruption. It is the force that tests structures. If thunder truly answers you, she said, her voice steady as the river current, then call it. This was not mockery. It was a challenge of authority. Ṣàngó lifted his oshe, the double-headed axe. Clouds thickened. The sky darkened. Lightning tore across the heavens. The earth trembled. Warriors stepped back. But Oya did not kneel. Instead, the wind rose. It did not resist the lightning. It surrounded it, carried it, shaped it. And in that charged silence between thunder and storm, they understood. This was not domination. This was equilibrium. Fire alone consumes. Wind alone scatters. But when fire respects wind, it becomes force with direction. It was not romance. It was recognition, not desire. Alignment, not conquest. Strength meeting strength. And for the first time in his reign, Ṣàngó was not facing submission. He was facing his equal. They did not marry in haste. They did not unite through conquest. Ṣàngó returned to Oyo after their first encounter changed him. For the first time, a force had stood before him without fear. And he understood something dangerous. If wind stands against fire, fire weakens. But if wind walks beside fire, empires rise. So he did what great kings must sometimes do. He sought alliance, not with threat, with humility. Messengers were sent to Oya's people, not soldiers, not drums of war, but elders, bearers of coronets wrapped in white cloth. calabashes of palm wine, cloth dyed in deep indigo and red, beads, coral, tribute. In Yoruba tradition, a royal marriage is negotiation, a covenant between houses. It is political, it is spiritual, it is deliberate. Ṣàngó did not summon Oya to his palace. He went toward her sphere of influence. He stood not as thunder, but as man. I do not seek to silence your wind, he said. I seek to walk within it. Elders gathered beneath Iroko trees. Kola nuts were broken, symbol of life and agreement. Palm wine was poured, symbol of joy and sincerity. Ancestors were invoked, witnesses beyond the living. Oya did not answer quickly, because wind does not rush. She asked him, will your fire listen? Will your pride bow when balance is required? Will thunder remember that wind can leave? And before witnesses, before earth and sky, Ṣàngó promised restraint. He promised partnership. He promised that respect. Only then did Oya choose him. Not because he was powerful, but because he understood power is incomplete alone. And their union became legend. Wind carried thunder farther. Storm sharpened flame. When Ṣàngó marched to war, the sky marched with him. Clouds gathered like soldiers. Wind swept ahead of his armies, blinding enemies with dust and fear. Then thunder spoke, not once, but again and again, echoing across valleys and forests, announcing that Oyo was coming. Villages surrendered before swords were drawn. Rivals trembled at the sound of storm. And beside him, though unseen, Oya moved the air itself. Wind carried thunder farther than any drum could. Oyo expanded. The names became legend. But even legends have weight, because power shared between two mighty spirits demands something rare: humility and pride. Pride is a quiet fire. It does not roar at first. It glows, it waits, and when ignored long enough, it burns empires from within. At first, it did not look like pride. It looked like victory. Ṣàngó had returned from battle again and again, with thunder answering his call. Villages whispered his name before clouds even gathered. Warriors began to believe he could not fail. And slowly, he began to believe it too. Oya watched. She had once shown him something deeper than lightning. Not how to summon it, but how to respect it. She had told him, wind listens before it moves. Power must bend before it strikes. If thunder forgets this, it becomes destruction. He had promised her balance, but promises are easiest to keep before applause grows loud. One night, surrounded by chiefs and warriors praising him, Ṣàngó decided to demonstrate his power, not in war, but in display. He lifted his axe and called lightning for spectacle. The sky answered, but not gently. The strike was heavier than he intended. A sacred grove burned. Homes cracked. The ground split where children once played. Silence followed. Not the silence of awe, the silence of fear. Oya did not shout. She did not curse him. She simply looked at him, and in her eyes he saw something worse than anger. Disappointment. You revealed what should be guarded, she said quietly. You used what was entrusted for pride. For sacred force is not meant for applause. It is meant for protection. And in that moment, the bond shifted. Wind does not remain where fire forgets restraint. Not because wind stops loving fire, but because balance is law. And when law is broken, even thunder must face consequence. Storm does not destroy out of hatred. It clears what has lost alignment. And from that night forward, their union was no longer unshakable. Because some damage is not caused by enemies. It is caused when power forgets humility. There is a Ṣàngó in you, the hunger to rise, the fire to build, the courage to lead, ambition, drive, authority. But there is also an Oya in you, the voice that corrects you, the wisdom that slows you down, the power that transforms you when you are brave enough to change. Wisdom, balance, evolution. If your fire refuses guidance, you won't just burn others, you will burn your own future. If your storm has no direction, you won't create change, you will create chaos. Real greatness is not loud, it is balanced. Love between powerful souls requires humility. Leadership requires restraint. Strength must respect strength, because the strongest flame still needs wind to rise, and even thunder cannot command the wind. Master both within you, and you will not just rule kingdoms, you will rule yourself.